Big Sky Howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio.
Yreka Ghost Town Bigfoot. But that was a fun day. It was great getting a chance to run around out in the woods with you and Jenny. And Jenny's just a sweetheart. For anybody that wonders, she's just even more of a sweetheart in real life than she is on camera.
She's a badass tracker. She's the one that found the trackway that we
That's right. I walked right past it. She spotted it as they were going past and went, "Hey, are those tracks? Are those craters over there tracks?"
I was watching down in the gully where I assumed the water source was.
Yep.
And filming down there and blah blah blah. And Jenny's like, these are Bigfoot tracks right back here. So we had to double back, and it's like, oh yes, they are. And they were actually going down into the ravine that I was keeping an eye on, and I missed the giant tracks going down there. But yeah, it was a pretty neat trackway. We saw where it went down into the ravine, come back, or vice versa. So it passed through there at least twice.
Yeah, if you guys want to go back and look at the June field report that I did, we've got that on there. And then the July field report, me and Johnny went back there to take a closer look at it because that embankment going down was so steep, we couldn't go down it from the ridge line. We would have just like fell down the hill. So we had to go way up to the mouth of the canyon and come in there at the bottom of the canyon and walk the bottom of the canyon all the way down to where that trackway came down from up above and went down to the bottom of the canyon, which it still was there 3 weeks later. It was easy to see. And you could also see where it had gone up the far side of the canyon. So there wasn't any water down there. He was just making a quick beeline. And where he was heading to is exactly where Kelly's vehicle was parked. So that was interesting. And then when we came back there, we wanted to verify that. So we were down there looking at that. And we went and walked back up the canyon and then came down that roadway that you and me and Jenny were on when you spotted the tracks. And guess what? About 50 feet before we got to the spot where those tracks were, there was another line of tracks going up the hill, about the same size, probably from the same individual. So they're, same ones are running around there. And the day I had Kelly there, I was trying to find the tracks from the really big guy that's up there because he's like 22-inch footprint. And so when he found the 19-inchers, Kelly was all happy with that. And I'm like, no, let's go over here where this other one, where you find his tracks are 22 inches. Let's find some actually big tracks,
I was excited because the biggest one in my area is in Utah. The biggest alpha males, 19 inches. I've never found one beyond 19 inches around here. And as a matter of fact, just a few weeks ago, out at the mouth of the canyon of Smith and Morehouse, a guy sent me some photos in the snow of 19-inch tracks there.
Right.
Smith and Morehouse, for any of you guys that have ever watched Grizzly Adams, that's where most of the show was filmed, was in the Smith and Morehouse area. From Oakley, Utah, you drive up the canyon to Smith and Morehouse. Very remote place. As a matter of fact, you go past one of the entrances to Thousand Peaks Ranch. It's the most remote, biggest ranch in Utah, over 60,000 acres. I have investigated Bigfoot sightings on the edge of the ranch, on the ranch, Haynes Ranch, and all that. As a matter of fact, a hunter filmed a really nice trackway of Bigfoot tracks there and everything. These areas are known as the gateway to the Uinta Mountains. So when I say that the Uinta Mountains is an epicenter of the largest concentration of Bigfoot sightings, well, Thousand Peaks Ranch, Oakley, Smith and Morehouse, those are all kind of considered the Uinta Mountains. So that's pretty exciting to get fresh Bigfoot tracks just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, no kidding. It's always nice when they find them in the snow too, because you tend to get a lot better detail out of them than you do on the ground, especially if it's an actual trackway. You can look at the same foot over and over again coming down in the snow and get a lot better look at it.
The toes in the dirt, the mud, and even in the snow, they destroy rather quickly. They're a pretty fragile part of the track. And this track was fresh enough that each one of the toes was still perfectly there. However, inside the track, you could tell had frozen over. So those toes weren't going to last very long. So feel very fortunate the guy come along and found those. And on top of that, I know the guy didn't fake it because a hoaxer isn't going to make a set of tracks and then come back a day later after they freeze over.
Right.
That was an indication right there the guy wasn't pulling my legs. And of course, I have been out there enough investigating, finding tracks that I know the shape of a Bigfoot track, what it's supposed to look like. And so when someone presents a fake one to me, it's a big red flag. And this was legit. It's in a legit area also.
Yep. Yep. And, Kelly is one of the people that I talk to whenever some new piece of supposed Bigfoot evidence comes out and red flags start going up. And there's Kelly and 2 or 3 other people that I'll talk to. And 100% of the time they're like, yeah, that's fake. It's amazing how we can pick out the fakes, no problem, immediately. And some of these so-called experts can't seem to tell the difference. I can think of one guy that was on Finding Bigfoot that, found a whole trackway, like 40 tracks or something, and spent about 100 hours documenting it, and it was all a hoax.
Yep, I remember that one.
Yep. Any other major high points from this year that you thought were worth mentioning?
I don't know if you guys saw it, but I did a breakdown of Romania Bigfoot that Les Stroud caught in the background on his video.
From a ways back, somebody noticed this in the video and sent you the capture and went, Kelly, is this what I think it is?
A guy posted a picture to one of my groups, and I zoom in on it, and I was like, my first gut instinct was, this guy added it. I thought it was a Photoshop added. So I went through the entire episode till I found it of Les Stroud's Romania video. It's a part where Les Stroud almost slides off a cliff. He would have been majorly injured, probably killed.
Yeah.
And so he's standing there composing himself, trying to come to terms with what just happened, talking to the camera. And it's back over his shoulder, hiding in the trees, and the jaw structure is just massive and strong looking. You see its eyes and everything. I got a hold of him with it because I wanted him to know I was doing the breakdown and everything. He just kind of pretty much said crazy. He didn't say it is, it isn't. He just pretty much said that's crazy. Further on in the video, after all that happened, he's talking about he's being paralleled by something hiding in the forest. Well, that sounds like a Bigfoot. That Bigfoot may very well have had a front row seat to Survivorman, watched him almost slide to his death, and then paralleled him in the forest because, he was getting what I think was Bigfoot activity after he filmed it. So, Duke should throw a screenshot of that up on this so you guys can see what happened. As Stroud only caught it for 2 or 3 seconds in the background and everything. So I thought that was pretty exciting. I mean, I didn't find it. Someone sent it to me, and then I kind of got permission. We would like to show you an amazing capture of what appears to be a Bigfoot Yeti or whatever they call this creature in the mountains of Romania. It's during an episode of Survivorman, Romania, Part 1. It appears Les Stroud unknowingly captures a Sasquatch-like figure at close range watching him from cover after Les nearly slid off the cliff edge. Les Stroud is filming himself as he absorbed what just happened while regaining his composure. I will include a link of this episode in the description of the video so that you can go watch it for yourself. There are a few seconds of footage on this episode starting around timestamp 35 minutes and 35 seconds. This is one of many frames from the original episode. After viewing this, I put it through some light filters to help enhance the figure that appears to be hiding in the shadows of thick forest. I zoomed in around 350% on the figure so that we can get a better look. I'm not saying this is Bigfoot or a Yeti. However, there appears to be a prominent brow ridge, some cheekbones, along with the characteristic domed head, no neck, just pure muscle from the head to the large shoulders that Bigfoot is known for. Not saying this is the eye socket of Bigfoot. However, we may be getting a clear look at the face of a Yeti or a Bigfoot. Look at that human-style nose and face with a large, powerful jaw. This may not be Bigfoot. However, this thing fits the characteristics of a Sasquatch, Bigfoot, or a Yeti. It has the dimensions, and it's doing what the creature does best, hiding in the forest and shadows while relying on its excellent natural camouflage while quietly observing everything in its environment. Today, it got a front row seat to an episode of Survivorman and looked on as Les nearly took a tumble from a cliff ledge. Please go watch Les Stroud's episode linked below this video. It's a great episode of a beautiful wilderness and has this amazing capture of whatever is watching Les Stroud from thick cover. 35 minutes, 35 seconds, right around there in the video. Keep on watching.
And I saw that. I weighed in and went, yeah, that's real. Where the hell did he film this? Romania? Oh, thanks for proving us right that they're everywhere. Thanks, Les. Oh, I'm just about to fall off the mountains in the grim Carpathian Mountains over here in Romania. And there's a Bigfoot following me. Why is he following me? Well, because he thinks you're a greenhorn. He almost fell off a cliff. He's going to follow you to make sure you get out of there alive.
Well, every region has their own name for Bigfoot. What would Romania call it? Would it be a Yeti, a Yeren?
I actually know what it is, but I'm not sure I can pronounce it. It's two words, and like in Romanian. So yeah.
So
no, unless Romanian pronounces it for me, and I haven't got Danielle Diva to do that for me yet. I don't know how the hell to pronounce it, but they do actually have a word for it. And if you go much further east from there, they just tend to call them almas or almas. Yeah. But in that area, they do have an actual name for them. So again, it's like every little area in Europe, they've all got folk tales about, these hairy guys that live in the woods, and they got a local name for it.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty neat. That was a great capture.
Yeah, that was awesome. Glad you shared that with the public. Super glad that one guy noticed it and sent it to you. Yeah, I'm pretty convinced that was in fact a Bigfoot. And then, like you said, Les had the activity following him out after that, some paralleling him.
Yeah, I did a video of it, and I also did a blog article on the YouTube video. Put a link to the blog article because the blog article has Les's full episode where it happened, and I got it timestamped and everything, so you guys can go see it for yourself. No funny stuff going on. I didn't add it in. Nobody else added it in. He didn't even know it was there. I mean, this is like a couple of years after the fact that someone found it. And I went and verified it, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
This stuff happens to us too, where we'll put out a video and it'd be like 2-3 years later, somebody will go, hey, timestamp, blah, blah, blah. And you go and look at it and go, oh my God, how did I miss that?
Right.
It was right there. Thousands of people seen it. Nobody noticed it until this one guy with a big screen TV had got a phone call and paused it and then came back and went, holy crap, there's a Bigfoot right there. It's actually happened to me reviewing my own video, and I get interrupted, and I freeze the picture, turn the sound off and everything while I'm talking to him, and I'm staring at the picture, and I'm going, oh my God, is that a Bigfoot in the background right there? Now that I've been forced to stare at the same frame for about 20 minutes, and all of a sudden my brain goes, there's one right there, dummy. Oh my God. Then I'll go back and forth through the video, and like his head is turning and watching me and stuff. And I'm like, oh God. These guys are so good at hiding. It's just ridiculous.
Yep, that's what they do, man.
Hide in plain sight. Yep. Yeah, actually on the one clip that's in Inevitably Finding Bigfoot in the beginning, I do this long pan where I'm going across the edge of the wood line. And then it stops, and there's a big one standing right there at the edge of the wood line. And I zoom in on it with the camera and lighten it up a little bit so you can see the contrast and everything a little bit better. And when you look closely at that, you can see behind it, there's 2 more black mounds with crests on their heads. So there's actually 3 of them there. The only one you can clearly see is in the foreground. Well, then the camera pulls back, and it continues with the pan on to the right. Well, about 30 feet in front of me, if that, there's one in a pile of fallen trees that's sitting right there looking at me. And as you watch the camera going across him, you can see his face, his head's turning, watching my arm in the camera. And I've shown that one to Kelly before too, so there you go. They're all over the damn place. You start looking closely at these pieces of video, you start noticing that, hey, that Bigfoot-shaped face over there, that's moving.
Well, the one you guys captured wood knocking, you guys didn't see it, captured it
Nope.
on accident, and just amazing footage. And I would like to point out that nasty hair that I just showed you guys earlier, when we first collected it, when it was first laying on the ground in 2 clumps separated by about 8 feet, that hair was the same color as that one that they captured on their video. It was kind of a grayish blue, just an odd color. It blends in so well with everything. It's great camouflage, but that Bigfoot you guys captured is the closest to the color as that hair when we first found it.
Yeah,
Before we clumped it together and smashed it into these bags.
well, the other thing that Kelly helped me do a whole bunch of breakdowns on different pieces of video this year, and I'd like to personally thank you publicly right now for that. And most recently, a piece that my new research buddy Johnny shot when we were out at the same place where me and Kelly were at 2 months later. We're way down in this valley, and he's just doing a slow pan around. There's a Bigfoot way back with its head in between these 2 trees, watching them, pan the camera across it.
Great face.
And Kelly pulled that one out of the video. Thanks for the help on that one. That was really nice.
Its face and head follows Johnny as Johnny's walking, and even changes expression a little bit as he's moving. That's what sold it to me, is it's changing expression and changing its head, and then it pulls back into cover. Johnny was getting to the point, step on the other side of the tree it was hiding behind, and it was going to expose itself, so it had to pull its head back and change its orientation to keep the cover between it and Johnny. So we're seeing firsthand how they're able to be so elusive. I mean, Johnny was probably only a dozen feet away from it, and it was able to hide from him so well.
Right. And he was literally doing that. He was panning the camera from his right to his left, and he was getting ready to turn his body to the left and walk along the edge of the hillside, which is where he was standing on a hillside. And so that's what was going on. He was filming to the left. Okay, I'm over here, shots over, turns the camera off, and walks away. So, yeah, it was just tracking his movement. He's heading that way. He's going to be able to see me in a second or two when he steps over there. So I need to duck back this way so that I'll have the tree and the brush in between us.
Right. It's Rocky Mountain Sasquatch. We're taking a close look at a section of video Johnny and Duke filmed from World Bigfoot TV during a follow-up investigation titled Montana Bigfoot Project, August Field Report, Tracks, Structures, and Sasquatch. One of the goals of the expedition was to film comparison footage at the location Jen, Duke, and Kelly captured of what appeared to be at least 2 Sasquatch watching them from cover. The section that Johnny was filming, he pans across what appears to be the head and face of Bigfoot watching him and Duke in the cover between 2 large tree trunks. A viewer pointed this out after watching the video, and after going through the timestamp 1507 to 1509, there appears to be at least 25 frames where the creature's entire face and head are in focus. Let's take a look at one of those frames enlarged by 150%. Here's the top of the creature's domed head. Look how human this face appears. And his coloration is amazing camouflage, with brownish gray face, and the hair just above his hairline is dark brownish black. His nose to me is very human-like, and when you look at the mouth going through this section in slow motion, you can see the mouth changing position and the face changing expression through the 25 frames of video. This first frame curls up like in a grimace or smile. Then in a few frames it straightens out, then towards the end looks like a frown before the Bigfoot pulls his head back and Johnny pans away, not knowing the creature was there. Duke and Johnny were at this location because of vocalizations that came from this direction. Plus, it was above the location they needed to get to so they could film the comparison video of the suspect Sasquatches RMSO had filmed back in July. I will show you the suspect Bigfoot footage Duke and Johnny were here to investigate, and then at the end of the video I will show you footage Duke's team filmed last year on the next mountain range of what I believe is the only video where a Sasquatch was captured in the act of wood knocking.
Oh, that was pretty cool, I must say. But yeah, again, it just being in the area where they're around and filming a lot. If they're near you, you're probably going to catch them on camera. But the problem then is actually noticing that you caught them on camera because they're still hiding so good. You've got to be, Kelly will tell you this. Sometimes he probably looks at pieces of video he's shot 5 or 6 times before he goes, "What the hell is that back there?"
Yep, they don't expose themselves. That's why they're so hard to get on video, is because they stay in cover. They also stay in the shadows of cover. And then if they're exposed, they're moving to cover as fast as possible. This creature does not want to get shot. Rifles can nail something 300 yards away.
Yeah.
So the best way not to get shot is not to expose yourself. So that's why it makes it very difficult to get them on camera. They don't stay in the same place long. They try not to get outside of their cover zone.
Yeah. Well, and then there's those weird cases where it seems like they don't care. They're trying to be spotted, like the one that was wood knocking, or like the 2 that were on the ridge line when we were up there this year. They were pretty much leaning out going, "Hey, Kelly, we're over here. Whoop, whoop."
Well, the tree knocking one, he exposed himself because I don't think he knew Eric was there. In my opinion, he assumed that the whole group was 100 yards off after
The rest of us
and he
were.
looks through. He's like, "Oh shit, there's one right there."
The rest of us were. We were well ahead of them. We had our backs to them. There's more than one in there. If you guys watch that piece of video.
It was a mistake on the Bigfoot part.
Yeah, if you guys watch that piece of video, there's actually one with a gray head who's like actually even closer to Eric, but he barely moves as the camera goes past him. And Eric is filming this one spot, and then he's pulling back out with the zoom. And I think what was going on at that point is that Eric was just finishing his pan. He had turned his head already to the left where we were and was getting ready to walk in that direction. He wasn't looking at the Bigfoot when it hit the wood knock or when it peeked out and looked at him. And we were making such a racket plowing through all this brush and fallen trees and stuff down there between the 4 of us that were down there. There was all kinds of cracking and popping and stuff going on all around us. And when the wood knock, when the Bigfoot did that, that was behind us. And that's right back where Eric was. So we just figured he had stepped on, a log and broke it or something. We didn't bother to turn around and look. That's where he was. He was making the racket. Well, for him, he's probably not, he's from the city. He's probably not paying any attention to where the cracks and the pops and the noise are coming from. He's just like, where are these guys going? And I'm getting left behind and I'm in the woods and I don't know where I'm at. I need to catch up to them. Finish my quick camera shot. Because he had gotten the top of this teepee structure. And then he panned over to his right. And then he zoomed back out again and just, that was the end of the shot. And he didn't realize that he had caught these, well, actually 3. The gray one hardly even moves. Most of you won't even be able to see it. But the other 2 in the background, the one that does the wood knock, and there's a smaller female with some kind of little canid critter in front of him. I pointed that out in my original breakdown. And she's wrestling around with that thing in the foreground. You can see her behind the pine branches. And then this bigger one looks out, leans away, does a wood knock, and then looks back again. And that's pretty much where the camera shot ends. So anyway, yeah, it's just a thrill to be able to actually capture something like that and to put to rest the age-old conflict between the researchers about, well, how do you know Bigfoot makes wood knocks? Well, because we got it on video. That's how we know.
Right.
Score 1 for us, score 0 for skeptics. There you go. Now we're going to just have to sit in the same place for a couple months until they decide to come and mess around with one of their structures and film them moving logs around. And then you guys will be forced to believe that one too.
Uh-huh.
But I'll tell you what, it's always a blast to have you on the show. And before we go, one thing we wanted to mention was that when I had Kelly on last year, we gave him a retroactive Field Researcher of the Year award for his escapades up there, climbing up to the top of an icy mountain to film Bigfoot tracks the day after that they were left there, and being the first guy to get there. And I should mention that a certain channel who likes to do Bigfoot talk stories brought this one up and covered it and said there was no proof that there had been a Bigfoot up there or anything. And me and Kelly both pointed out to him in his comment section that, yeah, Kelly was there the next day and filmed the Bigfoot's tracks, so you can knock off your BS Meister. He's got plenty of videos on his channel to show it too.
I found 2 sets of tracks up there, and one of them were just ginormous.
Yep. And he got in almost exactly the same location. He had Derek down below filming, so he got a good size comparison between what Kelly's size and the size of the original object that was filmed up there that left Bigfoot-shaped tracks.
That was a good spot for Derek. He tried doing the hike, and he got a couple 100 yards up the mountain, said he didn't want to die. So
Kelly, on the other hand,
and I was like,
I'll
that's
die
cool.
for Bigfoot tracks. I'll climb up this thing.
I was like, that's cool, dude. You just need to get down there and get me in the right location when I get to the top. But he was right. You start sliding in that stuff, you very well go off a cliff ledge. It was not for the faint of heart, and I never would ever do that except for a Bigfoot was filmed up there the day before. We went up and investigated the Provo Bigfoot sighting and wanted to show you some of the things that we found. It snowed 4 days after, so it would have covered up any of the tracks, and during that 4 days, I believe I'm the only one that made it up there. At least I'm the only one with video evidence of actually making it to the spot where the Bigfoot was. The guys that filmed it tried later on that afternoon and come up to some rock face walls and stuff and didn't quite make it up there. And then a guy a day after me or 2 days after me, he tried making it up there and he couldn't. It warmed up and got too wet and sloppy. So we studied the mountain for a couple of hours before I headed up, and we kind of mapped out a way to get up there to avoid the rock walls and everything. So we lucked out and made it up there. It snowed 4 days afterwards, so anybody else gets up there after that, the evidence is gone. But these are some of the Bigfoot tracks we found. I found 17-inch Bigfoot tracks, and I also found 14-inch Bigfoot tracks, and the 14-inchers are up by where the creature was. When we first saw the Bigfoot film on Reddit, we immediately started looking on Google Maps, zooming in with the satellite images and stuff, and trying to find the place along the Provo bench. One of my friends, he actually found it, showed me. Derek, Jenny, and I looked at that and said, yep, that's the spot. Right here is Derek's cell phone in front of me, showing the spot. Now I'm zooming in on where the Bigfoot was standing. Now here's a 17-inch Bigfoot track I found. It was going downhill. And this was in the oak brush cover before I got to the film location. When I got to the film location, paralleling the cover, as Bigfoot often does when it travels, it parallels cover, we found the 14-inch tracks. And here's the 14-inch tracks. And the two big toes were well preserved. I think the other smaller toes were either didn't take or the wind kind of blew the snow in. And then here's the screenshots of the Bigfoot. I went through and wanted to find where it was standing up the tallest. Our investigation video, I showed like the patty profile with its legs spread, taking a big step from the side so you could see the cone head. But on this size comparison, I want to get where it's standing straight up, because the Bigfoot seems to hunch over a little bit most of the film. So we wanted to do a size comparison with me. I actually stood pretty close to that very spot. Derek wasn't in the driveway of these people's home when he took the photos, so he was about 20 feet off. I went and found a photo where I was actually pretty much standing in the same spot, and that's coming up here. Now some of these, the Bigfoot's flailing its arms, and you won't be able to tell till you get me right next to it. I cropped an image with me right next to it, just so you guys can see its girth and weight and size. I don't know how much bigger that is than me. You guys can figure that out on your own. I don't know. It's at least a foot, maybe more. And then its girth. I weigh 200 pounds. So what does it weigh? This is the one I used in the original video of it, the side profile, the cone-shaped head. And then there's the 17-inch Bigfoot tracks again. I'm 5'7", and this looks like it's at least a foot taller than me, probably more. So it's 6'7", 7 foot, maybe taller. The 14-inch, this is the 17 that is in the cover. But what was leaving the tracks where it was captured on film was 14-inch tracks. That's the same size as Patty, and experts say Patty's about 7'4". So I'm going to go out on a limb and say this thing was at least 7 feet tall and probably 2-3 times my weight. I weigh 200 pounds, and this thing just looks massive. So I'm saying it's 400 pounds plus.
That looks like an old Bigfoot track right there. I don't know if you can make that out, but it looks Bigfoot shaped. Looks a little bit older. Let's put my foot right next to it. My foot's 12.5 inches. So you can plainly see that track's 17 or better. Oh, it's not as definitive as I would like to see, so I'll continue to look. No people tracks. I'm coming right on to where that Bigfoot was filmed. There's no doubt in my mind. I am walking into the clearing where that Bigfoot was. And lo and behold, another Bigfoot track, people. That is a Bigfoot. Toe. There's his toes. There's his track. It's another one of his tracks. I'm already, and there's my track. There's human right next to a Bigfoot track. Wow. Yeah, I saw that guy on Reddit say he hiked up here and didn't find nothing. And as soon as I come into the clearing, I know where it happened. Bam! Bigfoot tracks. All right, person has been up here, and these people tracks are a little bit smaller than mine, and they're iced over, so someone has come up and investigated since I was here last. Look, a rock was laying there at one point in time and was pulled up. Heavy rock. I mean, the bears will turn rocks to get grubs and stuff under them. Oh, and set of tracks. Those are the front feet of a rabbit. Rabbit come through here. All right, well, I have found people tracks and Bigfoot tracks up here. And I'm gonna call Derek so that we can get in the position that he wants me to be. Let me turn it on speakerphone. Just a second. Okay, am I in the right spot?
You're absolutely. In fact, I think you're a little bit higher than where it was. Where you first initially were, when you were a little bit further to your south, I think more where it was, but it could have been straight between where you are now and me. It could have been this way a little bit because there's a little bit more of a clearing that's there. But I'm telling you, man, you can hardly even see that you were there. I recorded a little bit. I took a couple pictures.
Uh-huh.
Standing in the clearing, and it pretty much took the snow behind you for me to even be able to see you. As dark as you are, whatever it was, I kid you not, 3 to 4 times the size of you. Pitch black.
All right, I want to point out, as soon as I busted out a cover into the clearing, paralleling cover, Bigfoot tracks. And then when I got out into the clearing a ways, I did find human boot tracks that were smaller than mine, but the Bigfoot track, clearly with the toes that I filmed, was bigger than my track. And then the Bigfoot track that I found the next draw over was even bigger than that. But it could be the same one that slid a little bit. It was a steep part and it was going downhill. So the Bigfoot may have slid a little bit there. But I did find a trackway, and it was evident to me that whatever was leaving that trackway was trying to pick spots, not to leave tracks. So, can you see me where I'm at now?
I cannot see.
Where do I need to be to, in your opinion, to be in the right spot?
I need to know where you are.
You can't see. I can see your truck. I just raised my, I know I'm probably just tiny up here. You see me waving my camera?
Where the hell are you?
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the right spot where that Bigfoot would have been.
I saw you before when you were further south, but
Okay.
I've lost track of you completely now.
So you were able to take some pictures of me up here?
I took some pictures of you up there.
I just found more Bigfoot tracks. Right here, people.
I want to be up there.
It's all right. We needed you down there for the size comparison. Those aren't boot tracks. I just saw boot tracks up here. Those are Bigfoot, people. So I've accomplished what I wanted to. I come up here to see if there was people tracks or Bigfoot tracks, and I found both. And then you say you got a picture of me up here somewhere?
I got a picture of you. I took a few pictures of you, and I also took some video of you as well.
How about right here? Can you see me?
Yes, I see where you are.
Yeah, get some pictures and video.
I'm on the right, the Bigfoot's on the left. It's quite pixelated and blurry because it's zoomed in on and all that. Derek had a little bit better camera than they were using, so we made the best comparison as we could. I mean, what is that? It's quite a bit bigger than me, quite a bit girthier. That's our investigation.
Provo Canyon. Yep, that was a
Yep.
classic right there. So
That
anyway,
was only a
that
mile from Squaw Peak, and several years before on Squaw Peak in the fall, a Bigfoot got filmed. So, and you got to go do these investigations. I would not have realized how close it was to the Squaw Peak Bigfoot video that was filmed like 6 years before if I hadn't actually gone to the exact location.
and then you realize how close they are, and it's like, wow, this might even be the same group of Bigfoot or the same individual that people are seeing because it's so close. You know, and for them to travel 5 or 10 miles is like nothing. It's like us walking down the end of the block.
That's like the third or fourth Bigfoot to be filmed in that general area in the last 12 years. So
That's really cool.
They're there. They're either there a lot or they move through a lot.
Well, thanks for spending some time visiting with us, Kelly. I know you don't hardly ever do any appearances on shows or anything, and I always enjoy talking to you. And you got a ton of people out there that follow you. They're always interested in what you're up to. They know you're the real deal. You're not going to bullshit anybody. And you actually get out there and put boots on the ground, butt in the field, driving umpteen thousand miles a year back and forth, all these different sighting reports, taking time away from everything else to do it. So I really appreciate all the time and effort that you're putting in there. And I'd just like to stick my neck out and on behalf of everyone else, thank you for putting in all that time and effort and bringing really great, consistent content to everyone all the time.
My mechanic and my tire guys, the guys at the local Les Schwab, they're always like, what in the hell do you do? I put about 25,000 miles on my vehicles every year. And it's like, what the hell you do? You were just in here getting a tire rotation. And I'm like, yeah, I already put 5,000 miles on those tires since the last time. Really? Wow. What do you do? And I'm like, oh, I spend a lot of time in the mountains.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and most of this isn't, happy, slappy, nice, flat freeway driving. This is bombing through a friggin' bombed out, crater laden, one lane dirt road with no guardrail, clinging precariously to the side of a mountain.
Just out of experience, dirt roads tear up your tires faster than pavement. I go through a lot of tires because of what I do, and I'll buy 60,000 mile tires, and I'm turning those tires in at 30,000 miles and getting warranty mileage on the next 30,000. I already wore them out. That's why my tire guys are like, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, I spend a lot of time on dirt roads, man. So that they eat up your tires, man.
And it can even be worse than that. We have one area out here where I've had at least 3 locals that I know tell me that they've had Bigfoot experiences up there. I've been up there myself and found a bunch of signs of them, but we don't go up there and do research. Well, why? Well, because it's a 1-lane road that goes 15 miles into where this area is, and it's all shale. So it will literally cut your tires to ribbons trying to drive in there and get out again. So it doesn't matter if you got a car. What have you got for tires on it? If they're normal tires, you're going to get a flat. You're not going to get in there and get out again.
Yeah, I got 2 flat tires at the same time on that shell stuff. The mountains east of Gold Beach, Oregon, I got 2 flat tires at the same time just after Jenny and I had a bunch of Bigfoot activity, and it was freaking us out. This was probably about 15 miles from our base camp. We were not prepared to stay the night on the mountain where all this happened. All of our gear was somewhere else.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so I had to put a spare on, and then I used a fix-a-flat on the other tire, and it wouldn't fix a flat. It was that bad of a flat. I do have a compressor that plugs into the cigarette lighter or whatever it's called these days. Every 10, 15 minutes, I had to pump that tire up and limp back into town to get it fixed. And then when the guys fixed the tires, they showed me the rock inside the tire that had punctured the tire and got inside and everything. One of the guys recognized me. He watches the YouTube channel and everything, and he's like, my friend watches it too. He's going to be upset if he doesn't get to meet you. So he goes and grabs this older guy, really great guys, and he starts telling me that his grandpa was on the construction crew that built Highway 5 through Oregon, Washington, California. His grandpa talked about the Bigfoot harassing their road crew and all that. They watched our channel and everything. So I'm like, I told them where I was at. I'm like, yeah, we were here looking for Bigfoot. And they're like, oh yeah, when you're going up in those mountains, you want to let some air out of the tires, make them softer, or you're going to be coming in here seeing us. And then they sat there and told me the hot spots to go to. And this was our last day in the area. We've been there like a week. I just wanted to get out of there so that Jenny and I could start heading home. I didn't want to tell them, oh yeah, I've already been there. I just let them tell me their stories and where the hot spots were. And I already knew these places coming in, but let them tell their stories and everything.
Of where you already knew they were at. Now you got more stories like, yep, I know they're there. Yep, I know they're there. Yep, I know they're there.
Yeah, I ended up having to buy a new tire and everything.
A roadbed of knife blades. At some point, you're just going to get them flat if you keep going. So when you guys are driving down the road here out in the Rocky Mountains, if you see a vehicle in front of you going really fast, and it's got Bigfoot bumper stickers on it and 4 spare tires strapped to the back, that's Kelly.
The guys that hunt in the Book Cliffs of Utah, they always tell you, yeah, you need 2 spares. Don't go in there unless you have 2 spares. And now I'm one of those guys that's a 2 spare kind of guy.
Just upgrade to 4 and get it over with, Kelly. You can always strap into the rope too. No worries. Yeah, 1 on the tailgate, 1 underneath, 2 on the rope. You're all set to go.
One of my suggestions is always carry a fix-a-flat and make sure that you have one of those little tire compressors that plugs into the cigarette lighter of your car, because that thing was worth its weight in gold that day when I had to get off that mountain.
Yep. And the other thing to encourage everybody is that if you're going to go out in the middle of nowhere and do some of the crazy stuff that we do, let somebody know you're going there and let them know when you should be back. So if you haven't showed up for a day after you realistically should have been back, at least somebody knows you're missing and they can tell someone.
That's
a
why
lot of these places we go to, there ain't no phone service. If something happens, you're on your own.
Yeah, some of these days when I get a Bigfoot sighting or someone sends me fresh tracks and everything, and so I all of a sudden tell my boss, I'm sick, I gotta go. So I bail work early so I can go do these investigations, and I'm by myself because the rest of my crew, they got jobs too and they're at work. So I call Duke, guess where I'm heading? You know, so at least someone knows if I don't come back where I'm at.
So if we don't hear anything from him a day or so, I'm going to be calling, going, hey, did Kelly ever come back from that sighting report? Here's where he was going. I was talking to him when he went into the slot canyon and lost phone reception.
Hope my boss doesn't watch your video. It's like, oh, so that's what's going on.
Yeah. Okay. So nobody tell Kelly's boss. You don't want to ruin it.
You get more food poisoning than any person that I know.
You know, it happens mysteriously on days when there was a Bigfoot sighting report nearby the night before.
Yeah, I've got to get into those places as soon as possible.
If you hadn't been Johnny on the spot on that Provo sighting and willing to climb up that icy cliff to get up there, nobody would have found those tracks up there. You're the one that found them and verified that wasn't some guy walking along the mountaintop. That was a Bigfoot. Look, his tracks are right here.
And that Bigfoot ripped a big square-shaped rock out of the frozen ground for some reason.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was really weird, too. That rock had to weigh a couple 100 pounds. That was a big chunk of rock.
And then it was in the frozen, snow-covered ground and shit.
Yeah.
I don't know why it pulled that out. What did it smell something under there? What was it looking for?
Maybe just like, I can easily rip this rock out. I wonder if there's any marmots under here hibernating.
And the first thing I did is I looked for evidence of someone using a pry bar or a shovel, and none of that. It looks like someone used its fingertips to just pull that out. And I know I couldn't do it. And I don't know anybody that could pull that giant rock out of the ground with their bare hands. Maybe it was that 9-foot tall, 4-foot wide Sasquatch that the person caught on video the day before that ripped that rock out of the ground.
Well, mysteriously enough, his tracks did go right next to it.
Yes. Exactly.
So it's a strong candidate that's who did it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you go here. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, checking it out. Go sub Kelly Shaw, Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization, if you're not already subbed. And sub my channel if you're not already subbed. Well, you can rely on the fact that my show's on every Sunday at 8 Central. But for other stuff and for all the stuff that Kelly's turning out, you can always get the notice in advance over on X. So, yeah, let's all go over to X and hang out. With that, everybody take care. Love y'all. And don't forget, the usual rules apply, and you should follow them implicitly so you don't get mugged by a puckwidgie.
Sure you're kind to everyone. Safety first, last, and always. Pay it forward. Don't be mean to people if you don't have to be. Don't flip off the mountain giant. Don't poke Dogman with a stick. Don't punt the puckwidgie. And for God's sake, whatever you do, do not hug the Wookiee.